This is my entry for the Play It Forward ukulele video competition. The title of this lesson is How to Play a Hymn Tune. The hymn tune I've chosen is one that I recorded a few days ago. It's a wonderful old hymn called The Old Rugged Cross. Now, how do you go about taking a hymn tune like that and turning it into an arrangement for the ukulele? Something that you can play without having to sing to it. Well, first of all, you need to choose your hymn tune. The next thing you need to do after you've chosen your hymn tune is to choose the key that you're going to play it in. Now, three keys immediately spring to mind: the key of C, the key of F, or the key of G. There are lots of other keys you could use, but it tends to be more difficult. So for this lesson, I've chosen the key of C, which means that the main chords that we'll be using are C, F, and G. C, F, and G. There is a chord of D7 in there, that chord, and there is also one or two other chords that are just used fleetingly. But the main chords are C, F, and G. I don't use the chords all the time. So the first thing you need to do really when you're playing is to actually work out the tune. Now, if you're able to read music, get yourself a hymn book and play it from the music. Put it into a key that you can play it comfortably in, like the key of C. By the way, with these keys, if you're not going to sing along to it, it doesn't matter which key you put it in, because it'll just sound good on the ukulele. But if you're going to sing along with it, you do need to consider what key to put it in. It might be more appropriate, for instance, not to play it in C, but to play it in F or G. But we're talking today about how to play a hymn tune. We've chosen the key of C. So you work out the tune. You can either read it from music or you can just work it out. When you're working it out from scratch, the first thing you perhaps want to do is work out what note it starts on. Well, there's the note C. This particular one starts on this note, the note E, on a hill far away. Play that again for you. And then I put a chord in. And we go to the next chord. Now, I suppose this is the next step. Once you've worked out the tune, you need to actually start to think about where the chords go. Most hymn tunes would tend to begin and end on the chord of the key that you're in. Now, we're in the key of C, so this hymn tune begins on the chord of C and ends on the chord of C. So there's a start. Often the next chord that you go to would be the fourth chord in the scale, which in this case is the chord of F. And that's what this hymn tune does. Okay, very briefly now let's look at the right hand. This is the technique I am using for this song. I'm using just my thumbnail but let's just look at what we could do. We could use, in a classical guitar style, these two fingers here. We could either do a roll with our fingernail, or we could do using all our fingers, like that. Let's work out the tune itself. That's the first half of it. So when you've done the tune like that, you need to think about where those chords go. And this might take some doing, but you'll find that if you choose the wrong chord, it's going to sound pretty horrible, or it won't sound correct. So this is the part that's going to take you some time to work it out. If you've got the music, of course, you can actually look at the tune and you can look at the chords that are printed. The problem with that is that they may not be written in the key of C, and you may have to transpose the chords, change the key so that it fits with what you want to play on the ukulele. But either way, you need to work out these chords and then start to put the two together. You've chosen your style that you're going to play it in, you've chosen how you're going to use your fingers of your right hand. So the next step is to actually try and put the two together, the tune and the chords. This is how I did it. Start with no chord at all. And now put a chord in. And there's some chromatic notes. Chromatic notes mean that they're not notes necessarily in the key that you're in. This note here isn't actually in the key of C, but it is in the tune, so you've got to include it. The second phrase is very similar to the first, though the ending is slightly different. Here it is. There's a chord of D7th. You see that chord there, just those two notes on the 2nd fret. Now here we go up to that note there, which is on the 8th fret, and that note there on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. That note there. Here is perhaps the most difficult bit of the piece. We go up to that note on the 7th fret of the 1st string. Sometimes it's really nice to keep your fingers on the fretboard and slide down.